This series of videos was inspired by a comment left on my YouTube channel by a fellow named James Childress, who's heading out to Tanzania on safari for the first time in about a month. Now, James said in passing to me that there wasn't that much information available for people coming to Africa on safari on what might be a once-in-a-lifetime trip and who wanted to maximize the return on that investment. So that's what these videos are about. They're about helping you get the most out of your safari in Africa and hopefully get great photographs. I think the first thing that I'd like to say about coming to Africa on safari is, well, one, good choice, but two, it's a very large and diverse continent. There's a lot going on here. So it really helps if you try and do a little bit of research about the specifics of the particular areas that you'll be visiting on your trip. And if you come to Africa armed with that research, the chances are you're going to be armed with the right camera equipment, the right mentality, the right idea of the kind of photographs that you might achieve, and therefore get great results. Now, I live in South Africa. South Africa is a great country to come and visit. It's great because it's got wonderful wildlife, wonderful national parks, it's got amazing landscapes, fantastic cities and vibrant people, and it's very diverse and quite large. So when you come to South Africa, the other thing that's great about it is the road network. It's got good roads, it's got good infrastructure. You can come here, safely rent a vehicle and drive off on your merry way without too much worry. And that means you can go to places like the world famous Kruger National Park in a normal two-wheel drive vehicle and get great photographs. You don't need a massive 4x4. You don't need to go with a safari outfit. You can just go on your own, save a bit of money, but you can also get great pictures doing it that way. Self-drive safaris yield great results because what you can do that you can't do in a normal safari vehicle is you can wait. You can sit and wait next to that wildlife sighting all day if you want. And you can go back the following day, particularly if it's something like a lion kill where the lion's going to be there for a few days. That benefit cannot be overemphasized because if you're in a safari vehicle with a safari outfit with a bunch of other people who might not be that interested in the particular bird or the particular scenery or the particular animal that you're photographing, it's going to be very difficult for you and very frustrating for you if you're continually being made to drive off to some other sighting, or worse, to drive off to go and have a cup of coffee or lunch. Lunch, as always, is for wimps, especially when you're a wildlife photographer. Stick with that sighting. I can't emphasize it enough. Wait there and you will get great pictures. South Africa is a fantastic starter country when you're coming on safari. And the reason for that is it's easy to book accommodation online, it's easy to book rental vehicles, it's even easy to book rental camera equipment, which can be quite an important detail if you don't want to carry vast telephoto lenses in your overhead locker on your way out to South Africa. If you want to book into the national parks, it's really easy too. Just head over to the South African National Parks website and you can book your accommodation there in parks all over South Africa. If you're flying into Johannesburg, it's a 4.5-hour drive through good toll roads down to the Kruger National Park. And the landscapes are very scenic on the way. There's lots to do and see, and you may even want to stay the night somewhere on the way down because it's a beautiful, beautiful country. Alternatively, if you don't have the time, you can actually book a flight from the airport in Johannesburg straight into Kruger Airport and actually rent your car there as well. So what about camera gear? Now, camera gear is very region specific and it's also animal specific. So if you're looking to come to South Africa, then the chances are you're going to be photographing large mammals, birds, all the way down to insects and things like that. So you could potentially need a range of lenses. Now, I like to self-drive with a long lens around at least 400 millimeters. 400 is a good length for somewhere like Kruger because the bush is quite close and the animals further into the bush and further away, you can't actually see to photograph a lot of the time anyway, especially in the summer months. So 400 millimeters is a nice length, especially a zoom. If you can get one of these 150 to 600 zooms or a 100 to 400 zoom, that's a great lens to take on safari in that sort of tighter bush situation in Kruger. If you're traveling west instead, out to the Kgalagadi, it's a more remote region, more difficult region to get to from the major metropolitan centers because it's a long drive, about a 9 or a 10-hour drive. But when you're out there, the bush is not close. It's Kalahari sand dunes, and the animals can be quite distant, and you're not allowed to drive off-road closer to these animals. So there is a great place for using a longer lens, perhaps a crop body as well. So you could use a 600 millimeter there. You could even put a 1.4 teleconverter on that lens and still you'd be okay for focal length. Now, typically when I travel there, I'm using a 100 to 400 for my video. I often tack a 1.4 teleconverter on that and a crop body sensor, and I'll use that for birds and video. And then I'll use my large lens, my 400 f2.8, for wider scenes, and I might put a 2x teleconverter, so I've got 800 millimeters on a full frame body in that part of the world. So you can see how lens choice and gear choice might change depending on what you're photographing and where you're photographing. It's important to do your research. So what can you expect when you turn up at one of these safari parks, these national parks in South Africa? Well, generally you've got a gate, an entry point, which you have to go through and pay some fees at. These will depend on what country you're from. If you're a local, they're much less than if you're a foreigner, and it's a good way for this country, which is cash-strapped, to earn a little bit of revenue from tourism. Then, once you pass the entrance gate, you can drive into the national park and make your way to one of the camps. And there's camps dotted all over these parks, and a lot of them, the parks that is, are very large. The Kruger Park is 22,000 square kilometers, slightly bigger than Israel. So you might have to drive a little distance to get to where you're staying. So it's important when you book to make sure that you've got time after arrival to get from the gate to the camp you're staying at. And it's important to realize that there is a park speed limit for the safety of yourselves and the animals. So a 200-kilometer trip might not sound too bad, a couple of hours at normal speeds, but it's 4 to 5 hours in the park. So make sure when you're booking that you just take into account the journey times between the gate and the camps. The camps themselves are really nice. They've usually got a small shop, slightly more expensive than a normal retail shop in South Africa, but the prices are not bad. You can buy things like curios there. You can also buy things like meat to braai, charcoal, firelighters, even plugs and accessories, sometimes even cards for your camera, batteries, that kind of thing, and generally all the food you need while you're in camp. The other thing is a lot of these camps now have camp restaurants as well. So not all of them, but a lot of them do. So you've got a choice. You can actually just go and have a meal at the restaurant instead of cooking yourself. But part of the fun of being on safari, it's not just about photography. Quite often it's about the ambience and enjoying that sort of bush feeling of being able to cook your own meat on a fire. The accommodation in the camps, particularly in Kruger, is generally of a goodish level. The crucial thing there is in the heat of summer, it really helps to have a bit of air conditioning. It gets really hot and muggy. In the wintertime, it's not necessary. There's extra blankets in the cupboards, and you'll get nice and snug in those warm beds before getting out into the cold in the morning to go off during the day and photograph. So the setup's usually in what we call a rondavel, which is a round sort of hut or chalet, and there'll be anything from 2 beds all the way up to 5 or more beds if you've got children, and you can book those online. Some of the units have kitchen facilities, some just have braai or barbecue facilities, and some of them have fridges, some of them don't have fridges. So just be careful to read the descriptions of these camps when you book. So what about animals and where to photograph them? Let's take Kruger as an example, shall we, as we've been talking about it a lot. It's a long, thin park with Mozambique ranging up the east side and Greater Kruger, other safari destinations ranging up the west side. It's about 400 kilometers long and about anything from 60 to 100 kilometers wide. And the bulk of the places that people visit tend to be in the southern third of Kruger National Park. It's got a reputation for very good game, and I wouldn't dispute that. It has got very good game. There's a slightly higher density of camps there. There's generally more people and tourists there, but it's still easy to get lost figuratively, lost in the bush, not lost actually. In that region. You can go for a while without seeing anyone else, and you can have a sighting all to yourself quite a lot of the time, even in busy periods. However, once you start driving further north, you'll find that the traffic thins out, the road network gets a little bit less. You'll go longer distances between camps, you'll see fewer people, and if you go all the way to the north, you'll get much less people on your daily game drive. It's a much more lonely experience. So that, I think, is an important factor. If you're like me and you quite like being alone out there in the middle of nowhere, you like that feeling, then head north. The game in the north is harder generally to see. It's a lot more about birds. There's more bird species up in the north of Kruger than the south, but still there's a good 400 species seen in Kruger, which is quite a large number when you consider that the count for South Africa is in the 900s. It's almost half. Now, the game that you see in the south of the park, you tend to see things like elephants. There's a lot of elephants in the park, particularly further north and in the middle. Buffalo, there's thousands, but they tend to be prevalent in big herds in the sort of middle-ish to north area. In the south of the park, you'll see giraffe and that kind of animal all over. There's lions all over. Particularly, you'll see them on the main roads. If you're not very good at spotting game, keep an eye out. Ask other people on the main roads what they've seen, and they might be able to direct you to big cats or areas where they've seen things like leopards. You never know when you're going to come across a big carnivore. They just pop out of nowhere. So just keep your eyes peeled when you're driving those long stretches. It's hard to stay awake, particularly if you're on your own. It's very hard to scan from one side to the other of the car in the bush and see everything. If you want to see a lot of game, there's 2 modes to doing that. You can either drive extremely slowly, I'm talking 10 kilometers an hour, particularly if you're on your own, to look under each bush and just get a good view. You'll still miss a lot of it, but you might see a lot more than if you'd driven fast up that road. I see people driving way too fast to actually see animals all the time. The other way to do it is to actually drive reasonably quickly to where you're going and hope that you run into something like a lion or a large mammal on the way, and that someone else has stopped there to give you sight of it. So you'll see this car stopped in the road, pull up gently and slowly near the car and have a look and see what they're looking at. When you get to a sighting though, please just turn your engine off. Don't sit there on idle. It's extremely irritating to people who are waiting and watching animals, particularly anyone who's filming, and that sound ruins the film. So just be courteous, turn the car off when you're at the sighting, and then start it up and drive on your way after that. The other thing that I'd advise you to do is actually pull over to the side of the road that the animal is on, and this will prevent people driving between you and the sighting and risk disturbing the animal. Also, try and stop a little bit further back from the animal and then just angle the car slightly so you can look out the driver's window towards the sighting. That way, if you're not too close to it, it won't turn its back on you and start to munch its way or wander into the bush. That kind of thing is really not good for photography, and the animal gives you what's called an AHV, an arsehole view. It's not a good thing. So stop a little bit further back, angle the car, let the animal carry on with what it's doing without being disturbed. And then when you need to go, just drive slowly past it. They don't mind you driving past. What they don't like is when you come up alongside them and then stop and turn the engine off. Quite often what that does is it makes them want to move away from you. Well, it feels like I've been rambling for hours, and I actually didn't make any notes for this video. It's straight out of my head, so I apologize if some of the advice is a little bit haphazard, but hopefully it'll help you on your trip, and I'll see you next time.